Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam reading of Canto number 3, chapter 32, verse number 1. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadameyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Udapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, again, we are reading from Canto number 3, chapter 32, verse number 1. I'll read the synonyms first and then I'll go to reading the verse. Kapila Vacha, Lord Kapila said, Ata, now, Yaha, the person who, Graha Median, of the householders, Dharman, duties, Eva, certainly, Avasan, living, Grihe, at home, Kamam, sense gratification, Artham, economic development, Cha, and Dharman, religious rituals, Swan, his, Dogdi, enjoys, Bhuyaha, again and again, Piparti, performs, Tan, them. Kapila Vacha, Athayo Grahamediyan, Dharman eva avasan grihe, Kamam artam cha dharman swan, Dogdi bhuyah pipartitan. Kapila Vacha, Athayo Grahamediyan, Dharman eva avasan grihe, Kamam artam cha dharman swan, Dogdi bhuya pipartitan. Kapila Vacha, Athayo Grahamediyan, Dharman eva vasangrihe, Kamam artam cha dharman swan, Dogdi bhuyah pipartitan. Translation. The personality of Godhead said, the person who lives in the center of household life derives material benefits by performing religious rituals and thereby he fulfills his desire for economic development and sense gratification. Again and again, he acts the same way. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Purport. There are two kinds of householders. One is called the Grahamedi. The other is called the Grahastha. The objective of the Grahamedi is sense gratification, and the objective of the Grahastha is self realization. Here, the Lord is speaking about the Grahamedi, or the person who wants to remain in this material world. His activity is to enjoy the material benefits by performing religious rituals for economic development and thereby ultimately satisfy the senses. He does not want anything more. Such a person works very hard throughout his life to become very rich and eat very nicely and drink. By giving some charity for pious activity, he can go to a higher planetary atmosphere in the heavenly planets in his next life. But he does not want to stop the repetition of birth and death and finish with the concomitant, miserable factors of material existence. Such a person is called a Grahamedhi. A Grihastha is a person who lives with family, wife, children, and relatives but has no attachment for them. He prefers to live in family life rather than as a mendicant or sannyasi, but his chief aim is to achieve self realization or to come to the standard of Krishna consciousness. Here, however, Lord Kapiladeva is speaking about the Grahamedis who have made their aim the materialistically prosperous life, which they achieve by sacrificial ceremonies, by charities, and by good work. They are posted in good positions, and since they know that they are using up their assets of pious activities, they again and again perform activities of sense gratification. It is said by Prahlad Maharaj, Puna Punas Charvita Charvinanam. They prefer to chew the already chewed again and again. They experience the material pangs even if they are rich and prosperous, but they do not want to give up this kind of life. So I'll read the translation once again. The personality of Godhead said, the persons who live in the center of household life derives material benefits by performing religious rituals, and thereby he fulfills this his desire for economic development and sense gratification. Again and again, he acts the same way. So yesterday, we had Leela Manjari Mataji give a very nice summary of the previous chapter, which is chapter number 31. Starts with the description of the soul in the womb, all the way till married householder life. And of course, we had a very colorful conversation over the last couple of verses that many devotees have shared. Again, these two chapters, as the previous chapter specifically, is such a potent and awakening chapter for all the grihasthas. And so this particular verse here is now discussing the responsibilities or the qualities of uh, a married householder life. So Srila Prabhupada is providing a very nice distinction here between Grahamedis and Grahasthas. The verse in itself is referring to Grahamedis, people who are entangled in householder life, or rather feel have embedded themselves in householder life as a means of self gratification. And then this other aspect of Grahastha life. So he's making distinction between Grahamedi life and Grahastha life. The objective, Srila Prabhupada says, is within the Grahamedi life, within the Grahastha ashram, the householders, the person, the individual is seeking sense gratification. Whereas Grihasthashram is a person in truly following Grihasthashram, the purpose is self realization. A Grihamedi works very hard, right? They utilize their God given skills and resources. They work really, really hard. and they earn a livelihood. And then, of course, their goal is to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And they may also engage in pious activities. And the engagement in pious activities is to have to be even more firmly situated in sense enjoyment. Maybe maybe not be sense enjoyment for them, but sense enjoyment of theirs. So this notion of aham and mameti, me and mine, is front and central for a grihamedi. There are things that Grihamedi wants to enjoy and own, and also things that he or she wants to make more and more theirs. So that is me and mine. Whereas on the Grihastha, Srila Prabhupada describes that the Grihastha does not have any attachment to children and wife. And we've talked about what this detached caring notion can be and is, and what this over attachment to family life, to one's dependents, to one's spouses or children or relatives, and what are some of the downsides of that over attachment. And then Grihastha does activities as a matter of duty and finds satisfaction in service to Krishna and, of course, his parts and parcels. But the primary characteristics of a Grihastha is the person is really keen to uh, extract himself out of this material misery of life and death. And not just remove oneself from the misery of life and death, but situate oneself more firmly in the constitutional position of the soul, which is service to Krishna. So that is the um, description here that Srila Prabhupada very, very nicely makes. Now, uh, we will see that Srimad Bhagavatam is full of really wonderful examples of grahastha, um, of grahasthas who again act as this lighthouse. We have all, many of us, find ourselves in grahastha ashram with various levels of understanding. Some of them may have stepped into grahastha ashram with um, very good understanding of what the roles and responsibilities of a grahastha is within the grahastha ashram, and under the guidance of a spiritual teacher. And some of us may have found ourselves in grahastha ashram and then coming across this wonderful knowledge in Srimad Bhagavatam. But irrespective, the fact is that we find ourselves in grahastha ashram. The point to note here is that um, the word ashrama is very important here, right? It is not just um, so we have the varnashrama system. We have the varnashrama dharma, which is a householder life, a brahmachari life, a vanaprastha life, which is um, retired life, and then sannyas ashrama. So these are all called ashramas, and they are called ashramas because uh, they include a lifestyle. They prescribe a lifestyle that helps the individual move or uplift their consciousness. There are rules and regulations within each of the ashrama, and which is what constitutes an ashrama. If there are no rules and regulations, then it is not called an ashrama. It just becomes grahastha. It doesn't become grahastha ashrama. And the same thing is true for brahmachari. Brahmacharya and brahmacharya ashram is also has its own rules and regulations, and so does sannyas ashrama has its own rules and regulations. And these ashramas serve as a protective layer, um, and as a systematic way of helping the individual grow in their consciousness and ultimately get to the stage of surrendering to the Supreme Lord and engaging themselves in that service. I wanted to talk about a little bit what reminded me of King Priyavrata. So, Swayambhu Manu was given this charge of procreation and essentially populating this universe so that, living entities who have various desires are able to fulfill those desires in the various bodies as arranged by the Prakriti. And so, Manu, having done his duty, his time, now desires to retire. And he asks his son, Priyavrata. Now, Priyavrata is being a bit, is a disciple of Narada Muni, and again, this is the great Narada Muni. And as a student of Narada Muni, King Priyavrata is, he has achieved the highest level of perfection in transcendental knowledge. He's very austere and is a very strict brahmachari. And again, with a spiritual master, I mean, if you look at the students of Narada Muni, they're all stalwarts. And so, again, this is the position of King Priyavrata. So, when Swayambhu Manu asks his son Priyavrata, like, can you, please take this on? This action of, or this duty, or this responsibility of populating the universe. His first reaction is, as the teenagers would say, hell no. That's not how he responded. But he had this resentment, or he had this. He was not really welcoming of the proposal by his father, and so Lord Brahma intervenes. Right, his primary concern, Priyavrata's primary concern is that he should not get diverted from his practice of devotional service by accepting this responsibility of ruling over the world and populating, procreating. So Lord Brahma arrives and convinces um, Priyavrata and assures Priyavrata, um, and says, again, there's a very nice dialogue. This is coming from Canto number 5. um, Very nice conversations about how it is important for one to fulfill the responsibility and the duty as it is ordained by the Supreme Lord. And so, and the protection is in just accepting the instructions of the Supreme Lord. Just like we had the Pandavas, Arjuna wanted to do something else. He wanted to go to the forest and not engage in this ghastly warfare. But his duty and his protection was in following the instructions of Krishna, not necessarily whether you're fighting the war or not fighting the war. That is not material. But what is important was following the instructions of Krishna. And so the instructions and the order of the Supreme Lord is one's duty and also remains one's protection. So after Lord Brahma has had this conversation with King Priyavrata, King Priyavrata is now sufficiently assuaded, and he accepts this wholeheartedly. Manu then hands over this reins to his son, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, actually the translation says that this refers to Swayambhu Manu, and he thus achieved relief from the most dangerous, poisonous ocean of material desires. So, again, contact with matter is extremely, extremely potent in a not so good way. It's dangerous, it's poisonous ocean of material desires. That's the nature of the material world. And so obviously Swayambhu Munu was relieved. He was like, phew, okay, now I can actually focus on my devotional service. And now that I've handed it over to somebody who's qualified. So Maharaj Priyavrata then marries Barishmati, daughter of another Prajapati called as Vishwakarma. And although Externally, Maharaj Priyavrata is extremely engrossed in material matters. And the reference is also made that he almost looked like a henpecked husband, as in he would do whatever his wife asked for. And again, the relationship between King Priyavrata and his wife Barishmati is also very clearly stated how each one of them are giving each other the strength. And the Grihastha becomes a fortress with the support of a uh, able and qualified wife. So, although externally King Priyavata appears as a worldly person, he never actually forgets his true position and goal in life. And he also not only he follows it, and because he follows it, he's also able to maintain that varnashrama dharma for the entire world. So Srila Prabhupada actually says in that particular purport that to maintain such a life of strict vigilance, one needs encouragement from his wife. Brahmanas and sannyasis don't need encouragement from opposite sex, but Kshatriyas and Grihasthas do need encouragement of their wives in order to execute their duties. So, this association of a good wife is necessary in a life of karma and political affairs. Um, and this is where I wanted to segue also to this really nice verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 1, verse 18. Um, in the translation reads as such: one who is situated in household life and who systematically conquers his mind and five sense organs is like a king in his fortress who conquers his powerful enemies. After one has trained in household life and his lusty desires have decreased, he can move anywhere without danger. So, uh, this this householder life can is like most things. There is two parts to it, two sides to it. It can be a framework where one steadily glides down um, and gets more and more entangled in the material world. But the householder life can also provide us the support for ascending in one's consciousness and perfecting one's life. Uh, and so this is something that requires appropriate guidance, requires appropriate training, and requires appropriate association. Uh, so in in the grihastha uh, framework, I mean, and with the focus on the ashrama aspect, again, as we associate with like-minded grihasthas, as we again reinforce our true nature and understanding that we are in this, as Swambhu Manu puts it, in this uh, uh, dangerous, poisonous ocean of material desires, our uh, the fact that we have our spouses, the fact that we have the association of like-minded grihasthas, the fact that we have association of senior devotees, uh, and the fact that we have been prescribed a particular sadhana. These are all the protective structures that can help one uh, overcome these ocean of material desires and slowly progress on the path of practice of bhakti. The uh, the situation that we find ourselves in with the opposite sex can also serve as a fortress in helping the husband and wife progress as one really strong unit in this Kali Yuga. And actually, if we see around us, almost everything has this is this tinge of lust. No matter what advertisements we see, no matter how the most innocuous things get marketed, there's always this um, you know marketing typically uses some of these basic qualities of lust and fear. These are the two really good ways to sell anything. uh, and so the protection of a grihastha life uh, with an able spouse in this material world provides uh, the strong fortress behind which one can actually tackle the onslaught of this material energy. So, with that, I will stop here and see if there are any comments or thoughts. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. All right. If there's no thoughts and comments, thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. I mean, it looks like it is more, what do you call? I mean, I was just maybe trying to extrapolate it. I mean, it's like bhakti is like a razor sharp edge, right? I mean, like even in this life, whatever is ashrama or whatever position one is, and if doesn't follow properly, then it's going to be another challenge again, right? So I was just thinking about that. So
Correct.
I mean, there are advantages, but yeah, there are. I mean, of course, I mean, if you see the whole bigger mass, right? The the negativity is more than the positive impact of, right? I mean, falling down from that human form of life one gets, right? So by not following those ashrama rules, whatever mentioned, that it's the chances are high, right? I mean,
Correct. So, to me, as I was reading this is, um, even very highly qualified souls either have been impacted or, fallen down or have a fear of falling down. And of course, there's a very nice Prabhupada um, um, you know, quote there of, Srila Prabhupada saying that, he can, he can be even in, his mind will not be um, disturbed even in the midst of naked women. And the next thing he does is he's standing in front of the deities and very ardently praying that he may never fall down. And so this falling down is is actually more possible. The probability of falling down is a lot more than not falling down. And even as we see here, King Priyavrata, is seeking counsel from Narada Muni, is seeking counsel from his father, Swayambhu Manu. These are all superlatively qualified individuals. And then grandfather Brahma has to come down and further convince the the skepticism that Priyavrata has and the fear of being distracted. Like we are talking about, really elevated personalities who are very careful about, associating with the material energy in ways that are not needed than, just plain and simple devotional service. And yet, um, of course, they do it because of, their duty as it has been asked and ordained. And so this healthy fear of um, being entangled in material energy is something that the most elevated of the personalities maintain. So for, as I reflect in my situation, this is not something to be casually taken, like if a casual life in devotional service will not necessarily provide the results that we deeply desire. And so there's uh, constant association of the Shastras, where we come across these really strong personalities and the examples, and also maintaining this healthy fear every time that we stand in front of Shri Radha Shyamasundar. Please kindly engage me in your service and protect me from, material energy, or being entangled in the material energy. Again, it is not fear consciousness that is being prescribed. Our philosophy is Krishna consciousness, right? We we seek the consciousness to be engaged in Krishna's service, not this constant fear of falling down. However, um, our first prayer is, that we, be engaged in Krishna, Guru and Krishna's service, and then also maintaining this acceptance that we may be swept with the material desires, and we continue to be swept with material desires every time, and to be protected from those material desires and material energy. And so that secondary uh, prayer also has to be there in the background for us to maintain that healthy fear of not being too entangled. So this was for me quite, both the previous chapter and this chapter has been really uh, a powerful chapter. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You quoted Srila Prabhupada purport that wife support is needed especially in Kshatriya or Vaishya
Mhm.
uh, ashramas or sorry, varnas. Where did you quote that from? It's not in the today's purport.
No, it's not in today's purport. It is in it is Canto number 5. Let me see. Oh, chapter 1, verse number 29.
5129. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it says that to maintain structure, so again, Prabhupada is referring to King Priyavrata. To maintain such a life of strict vigilance, one needs encouragement from his wife. In the Varnashrama Dharma system, certain classes such as Brahmanas and Kshatriyas do not need encouragement from the opposite sex, whereas Grahasthas and Kshatriyas, however, actually need encouragement of their wives in order to execute their duties. Indeed, a Grahastha or Kshatriya cannot properly execute his responsibilities without the association of his wife. So, yeah, Prabhupada is very, uh, again, time, place, and circumstance, right? So, given the current circumstance in Kali Yuga, Grahastha Ashrama can uh, provide a really strong framework and fortress if the ashrama aspect is respected.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments? All right. Well, thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhu pyevacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Antakoti Vaishnavendra ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.